Hello, my name's Suraj and I'm the founder of Soul Legal Services. My background was really normal up to a certain point. So I went to school, I sat my GCSEs, I sat my A-levels. I then went to study law, and I studied law for 5 years at Staffordshire University. It was always everything that I wanted at that point, and I dedicated my life pretty much to it. It was good. I enjoyed some parts of it. I didn't enjoy the theory. I struggled quite a bit with being dyslexic. It wasn't helpful with such an academic and heavily academic degree. After that, I did something, what was the postgraduate diploma in legal practice, which was something that we needed at the time. It's called the LPC, and back in my day, without that, you couldn't never qualify as a solicitor. I enjoyed that a lot more because there was a lot more practical and less theory. I really got bogged down with the theory and it just got really heavy. And we were talking about stuff that happened thousands of years ago in some scenarios or some cases. So it was a bit frustrating for me because during my degree, I was actually doing a lot of work experience and I was getting lots of practical exposure into law firms. Thankfully, I was very lucky to have that. But the other side of that was that it was frustrating because when I was sitting there doing all the theory, I knew that it had absolutely little to no relevance to the practical side of things and what was the inner workings of the industry at the time. But the postgraduate diploma was a little bit more interesting. There was a lot more practical to it, and it was a little bit more process driven. So it was, this is what happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So I kind of got my head around that a bit more, and actually my grades increased quite dramatically when I did that. So yeah, I enjoyed that bit, and I worked in the industry for nearly 10 years. I went from a very, very small, they say a full service law firm. We only did 3 or 4 different things, very much a high street firm, the likes of the firms that are dying out in today's world because they're not always moving with the times. But I started off there and it was a local firm in Burslem. By the time I'd finished, I'd kind of hopped, jumped and skipped around a little bit. I actually ended up working for Hogan Lovells, which is an international firm based out of Texas, I think. And my client was one of the top 5 corporate investment banks, and I worked on a case that's called the gold fixing scandal, and I helped prepare a defence for them when the scandal came through. It was quite a substantial case and a really big scandal, and it gave me a lot of exposure into corporate investment banking, loads of exposure into trading. So we were trading on a PM fix for gold. We don't have 2 fixes anymore. It's 1 fix. So you would trade over the counter. So it was a fixed number. It wasn't like the stock exchange where you would give an offer. The money was the numbers were set, and that was what you traded for. That was a lot of fun, and it was very much the what you might imagine a law firm to look like when you study it. And we had a pool table, we had a putting green in the office actually. So it was quite fun, and it was one of those that was like, I think we were 8-9 stories high, which for Birmingham is quite substantial. It was a high rise. So yeah, and that was I finished there just before the COVID pandemic, and it was the COVID pandemic that then pushed me in desperate need to start a business and provide legal services on a smaller scale, because that role was no longer available. It wasn't going to be for a very long time because of the pandemic. So I had to switch it up and change really quickly. So interests-wise, I've always found this really hard because I have a lot of interests, and I think and I don't want to talk too much about it, but I don't think I'm neurotypical. And so what comes with that is there's a lot of distractions, but a lot of kind of things that you're sort of interested in, but not really massively interested in anything. But my top interests, I've always had a real thing for wanting to present myself well, which has then translated into having a kind of thing for fashion and just clothing and the way it's sort of presented, the designers and the way it might look on someone. So that's always really been a keen interest. Since a child, I've just had a thing, anything engine related, especially cars. I absolutely love cars. Anything to do with cars. I love to talk about the engines. I guess I'm one of those weird guys that gets into a TikTok hole and listen to the sounds of engines and how they differ, which I absolutely love. I will happily do that all day, every day. And one of my favourite, I'm I'm not a big German car fan. Give me Italian, obviously, but also Japanese. I love a Japanese car, a Japanese domestic market. I am very much the Fast and Furious era. So obviously a Mark IV Supra with a proper 2JZ twin turbo engine would be an absolute dream to even see. I don't think I've ever seen one. But one of my biggest dream cars from a very, very small child was the Ferrari F40, a late 80s supercar, back from the old era of the XJ220s and the Lamborghini Diablo, that sort of era. And I've been extremely lucky to be able to see 2 or 3 of them, and I've sat in one of them. One of them was a limited edition one, and yeah, the one I sat in, I believe, was owned by a local business owner in Staffordshire, actually. I won't mention him, but he's got a very, very, very nice collection of them. And I believe this one that I sat in at the time was a good 30 years old. And I kid you not, it didn't have any more than 9,000 miles on it. And it was an absolutely lovely car. It was a dream. It is. He opened the bonnet, which is at the back, for me, so I got to see all of that, and it's a great story, actually. And he's obviously a very, very wealthy man, and it had humongous tyres. I've never seen tyres so big. And he said to me that the weekend prior, couple of weeks prior, he was on a racetrack with it, and he said I was doing about 140 miles an hour in third gear at about 8,000 RPM, and he said I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't feel any grip. It was normal for him to do that kind of speed and be in that third gear and have no grip. And he said I'd put it into fourth and I finally found grip. So he then instructed whoever he instructed to get 2 new tyres put on. And he had 2, and it was, you could quite see they had full tread on, they were brand new tyres. And I said, how much did the tyres cost? And he said, well, the invoice comes in and it gets paid. So you want to. It's a nice place to be where you can just go and get your Ferrari tyres put on and not worry about how much the invoice is. But cars, a humongous passion of mine, and I think as time's gone on, it is going to be very cliche, but watches are a big passion of mine as well. Not so much with as with cars. I mean, I really enjoy watches. I think some of them are really a bit silly, and some of them I don't like. I'm very much a connoisseur with them. Give me the likes of a Breguet over these fancy Richard Mille, Patek. Well, Patek's actually quite a good brand. But yeah, lovely thing. I don't own anything fancy. Same with the cars. Not yet, unfortunately. I'm really looking forward to when I can have collections and really live those passions through and live life to the fullest in that way. But those are my 3 main ones. But yeah, then anything to do with engines. Obviously, I love Formula 1 and even motorbikes. As long as it's engine related and has a sound. Internal combustion engines are my thing. I don't see myself having a Tesla soon, unless it's like the 3rd or 4th car. I would take an internal combustion engine over any of those so far.